Back at it, part tres. Um, so this is the other part for the session for today. Uh, I mentioned Tifo or Tifu football channel on YouTube. So basically, this is a channel that does a shorts. It's illustrated. They're like very elementary type of illustrations, but it's a narrated script from that's like an offset of or an offshoot of a football periodical that does articles, lengthy articles about football topics. Football being the world sport of football, um, and uh, so the shorts series are illustrated narrations of some of these articles or portions of these articles. Um, and it's increasingly accessible. Like you can, instead of just having the words, you have a little bit of the visual as well, so that it's easier to like absorb. And it's actually rather interesting for those who have an interest in football. It goes on a number of different topics, from like recapping a game, a match, telling the biography of a player, telling like the inside scoop about what's happening, not gossip things, but like what the background story is of certain legendary events, strategies that managers employ, what's working these days, what's worked historically. So all these different aspects, but also the business of football, and that's this particular video I watched recently was talking about how one Manchester United, which is the club I support out of England, the Premier League, and the bitter rivals Liverpool. And so there are a lot of videos about the rivalry additionally, but this particular video was like it was called the Battle for Asia, and it wasn't actually specifically about Asia. Part of it dealt with Asia, but just basically it was about the franchising or the licensing or merchandising competition between Manchester and Liverpool. United, I should say, and Liverpool, because for years and years, for a long time, Manchester United has been like the number one sport franchise in the world, um, and has been very lucrative, particularly recently as Americans have taken the ownership of the club and basically just exploiting the name of the club for making money and paying off debts that it costs to get the club. Um, so a lot of people, supporters, have been concerned about the integrity of the club. It's gone through a lot of travail over the past few years, particularly after the retirement of a legendary manager, Sir Alex Ferguson. Um, anyways, black nationalism to football politics. Yeah, yeah. All right. Anyways, so the club has been on a decline. It used to be a decade ago getting championships left and right in England, in Europe, and additionally, and that's part of like the reason why it's so popular, particularly within latter years. But it's been doing it for decades. And then when the manager retires, the Americans take over the club and don't know too much about football, but know how to make business. The club is still making a lot of money, but the club is also decreasing in the ranks for years, and so that translates into less popularity worldwide. So where before it's been one of the number one sporting brands around the earth, now there's increased competition, and so this short was talking about that and how other companies, I'm going to say names, but a major sports wear manufacturer was wooing Liverpool, fierce rivals of Manchester, who are on the up and coming after a long time of having a hiatus off the championships path themselves. They're up and coming these days, and so now they do have they have a name, a brand name that people recognize. They have a history, a lore, and now they're starting to win. And so that's a partial recipe for popularity, which can translate into merchandising. So there's this merchandiser, manufacturer who is wooing the sport club to sign a contract and sharing like all these promises of marketing and getting celebrities to endorse this and the other. So the Tifu article or Tifo article was talking about that competition, and there was a it began by an anecdote in Japan about people in a bar. watching a football match in the early hours of the day, and the scene being different than it was in previous years. So again, this is a global thing. There are markets all around the earth that where football is established, and there's business going on. So, anyways, all this being said, one of like the initial reactions to the article, as a Man United supporter, was like, "Oh, Man United, we got to do something, this and the other." And so you might say, "Wait, hold up, what? I thought you were like the militant, revolutionary, cooperative, this and the other." Oh, righto. So, like I said, just being a supporter, that was the initial reaction. That was like the initial, like, oh, I got to start a Manchester United club, or I've got to see if there's one around here, and we've got to, like, always see. I care less about the merchandise or anything, but I do support Manchester United, and uh, there is the rivalries are always taken with a grain of salt, and abstaining from getting into like the hooligan mentality, whatever else, or even anywhere proximate to that. Um, but there is a certain amount of competitiveness. There's a certain amount of rivalry additionally, and um, that's part of the nature of supporting a club. That's part of the nature of being part of a group, and so I consider myself. What's my responsibility if I'm going to be a supporter? What do I do here? So all that being said, this is what I'm getting to. Uh, as I was having that initial reaction after watching the article or watching the short, I think to myself, yo, first of all, I ain't supporting the merchandiser because, or I'm not trying to like get a competitive merchandiser who does the same methodology of sweatshop, and that was like the overarching and even the pre-initial reaction because they when the Tifu was mentioning who the sportswear manufacturer was, I was like, oh yeah, I don't buy their stuff because they use slave labor, and so I'm fair trade like this jacket in addition. And so I work diligently in cultivating co-ops and strengthening co-ops to support fair economics. Um, so I'm with the company they were talking about, and then as I consider, well, what can be done to help United? If this company is siding up with Liverpool, then perhaps we can get another company. But even before like even pondering that notion, I'm like, any big name manufacturer, clothes manufacturer, or sportswear manufacturer to compete with the one that was described is doing the same thing. I ain't with that. So I get kicks like these out of Ethiopia. Now this one's over a decade old, but this is fair trade. So that's where I'm getting my footy from. Um, so that's the companies that I work with, or that we work with. And so I think to myself, yeah, that whole game of like numbers of like masses. And one of the comments on the video was like, yo, those fans that have the fan base that's fallen off. They're glory seekers. Like they're on the bandwagon. So why do you want cats like that anyways on your team? So okay, fine. Um, let those kind of cats go, and it strengthens that notion of what it means to be a supporter, what it means to be part of a group, and to be like down for the cause and have alignment and allegiance. So it's not just a matter of wearing a T-shirt. I'm getting warned all left and right here now. It's not a matter of just wearing a T-shirt. It's a matter of like no being down for the cause. So that leads me to say, hey, let's make our own franchising deal. Let's work with ethical, fair trade companies like Ahimsa, like Athletic, like Nasty's T-shirts, and additionally that are doing fair trade products, footwear, clothing, and additionally, and let's go to some like local football clubs that are not in the top, nearly even the top tier division, but are like based within the community and doing genuine community outreach, so that the people who are going to the matches and talking about it, they actually know the players, like his family, his friends, his loved ones. Let's connect with those clubs and like let's start some merchandising things. Let's build a network. Let's build some co-ops in these areas, economic co-ops, residential co-ops, even transportation co-ops in addition for where it's needed. And like let's build a network along those lines. And so that's the further reaching idea and consideration, actually agenda where I'm going to at this moment as I continue with the work that I do. So rather than like aligning with the big name clubs and being just one of the fans that the nameless whatever, I like that. I like talking. It's a little bit of a cult thing here where I am in Ohio, in the Western Hemisphere, because not too many cats are on it. So when someone is on it, then there's something to talk about. But even then, there's just a very strong remoteness. It's that plutocracy. So the consideration is connecting with clubs like, yeah, you don't know who it is, but guess what? You are cats I talk with already don't know who Man United is. So connect with football clubs in Sao Paulo, in the land of Guarani, and in Shanghai, and additionally, and who are connected with the community, and let's rock their kits, and let's connect with their co-ops, and be mutually beneficial. So hood to hood, village to village, we're building, we're growing, we're living. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom. Zaijian, adios, stage agrees. Asepin Asamu, Kele Ufred, one love, peace.